What if I told you that right now, as you're listening to this, your mind is being controlled by something you've never even noticed? What if I told you that 500 years ago, a man discovered the secret to taking back control of your mind? And it's so simple, yet so powerful, that it can literally change your life in minutes. Welcome to Echoes of Dharma. I'm about to share with you the most shocking Buddhist teaching that will completely transform how you think, feel, and live. This isn't just another self-help video. This is about discovering a mind control secret that's been hiding in plain sight for thousands of years. But here's what's truly shocking. You're already being controlled. Right now. And you don't even know it. Let me ask you something. How many thoughts have you had in the last minute? 10, 20, 100. The truth is, you probably have no idea. That's because you're not in control of your mind. Your mind is in control of you. Think about your own life for a moment. How many times have you lain awake at night, your mind racing with thoughts you didn't invite? How many times have you been in a perfectly good moment, only to have your mind drag you into worry about tomorrow or regret about yesterday? How many times have you wanted to feel peaceful, but your thoughts kept pulling you into anxiety, anger, or sadness? This is happening to you right now, even as you listen to these words. Your mind is probably commenting on what I'm saying, judging it, agreeing or disagreeing, wandering off to think about something else entirely. You think you're in control, but you're actually being controlled by this constant stream of mental chatter. But what if I told you that this mental chatter isn't actually you? What if the voice in your head that never stops talking isn't your true self at all? What if everything you think you know about your own mind is completely wrong? This realization changed everything for a desperate young monk over 500 years ago. And when you hear his story, you'll discover a truth about your own mind that will shock you to your core. Picture this. You're lying in bed at 2 a.m. and your mind is racing. Maybe it's replaying something that happened years ago. Maybe it's worrying about tomorrow. Maybe it's just jumping from thought to thought like a hyperactive monkey. Sound familiar? That's because you're experiencing what Buddhist monks call monkey mind, and it's controlling your entire life. But here's the shock. You think those thoughts are you? You think that voice in your head is you. But what if I told you that's the biggest lie you've ever believed? Let me tell you a story that will blow your mind. Over 500 years ago, there was a young monk named Huike who was so tormented by his racing thoughts that he couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't find peace anywhere. His mind was like a wild horse that refused to be tamed. Day and night, thoughts would attack him. Doubts about his practice, fears about his future, endless worries that gave him no rest. Does this sound like your own experience? How many nights have you lain awake, your mind spinning with thoughts you can't control? How many times have you tried to focus on something important, only to have your mind drag you away into worry, regret, or endless mental chatter? Huike felt exactly the same way. He was a brilliant young man, devoted to his spiritual practice. But his mind was his worst enemy. No matter what he tried, meditation, prayer, study, nothing could quiet the storm in his head. Desperate for answers, Huike traveled for months through treacherous mountains to find the legendary Zen master Bodhidharma, who was said to be meditating in a remote cave. When winter came, Huike stood outside the cave in the freezing snow, waiting for the master to acknowledge him. For days, Bodhidharma ignored him. The master sat in deep meditation, completely unmoved by Huike's presence. Can you imagine the desperation? Here was a young man so tormented by his own mind that he was willing to stand in freezing snow for days just for a chance to find peace. Think about your own desperation with your mind. What would you be willing to do to finally have control over your thoughts? What would you sacrifice to end the constant mental chatter that steals your peace? Finally, to prove his sincerity, Huike did something shocking. He cut off his own arm and presented it to the master. Only then did Bodhidharma turn to look at him. With tears streaming down his face, blood flowing from his wound, Huike fell to his knees and begged, "Master, my mind is so disturbed, so chaotic. Please pacify my mind. I cannot bear this torture any longer." Can you feel his desperation? This wasn't just casual suffering. This was a man who had reached the absolute limit of what he could endure. His mind had become such a source of torment that he was willing to mutilate himself just for the chance of finding peace. And maybe you understand this feeling. Maybe you've reached moments where your own mind felt like torture, where the constant worry, the endless thoughts, the inability to find peace felt unbearable. Bodhidharma looked at him with penetrating eyes and said something that changed everything. "Bring me your mind, and I will pacify it for you." Huike was stunned. He had expected the master to teach him a technique, give him a meditation practice, or share some ancient wisdom. Instead, Bodhidharma was asking him to bring his mind, the very thing that was causing all his suffering. So Huike began to search. He looked everywhere within himself for this thing he called his mind. He examined his thoughts, but were his thoughts his mind? He looked at his emotions, but were his emotions his mind? He searched through his memories, his dreams, his fears, his hopes. This is exactly what you need to do right now. Stop and look for your mind. Where is it? Is it in your head? Is it your thoughts? Is it your emotions? Is it your memories? Look carefully. Really search. Minutes passed, then hours. Huike searched with the same intensity that a drowning man searches for air. He looked everywhere for this thing he called his mind. The more he searched, the more confused he became. He found thoughts, but the thoughts were constantly changing. He found emotions, but they came and went like clouds. He found memories, but they were just images from the past. He found sensations, but they were temporary. Where was this solid, permanent thing he called his mind? Finally, exhausted and bewildered, he said, "Master, I have searched everywhere, but I cannot find my mind anywhere." And Bodhidharma smiled the most compassionate smile and said, "There, I have pacified your mind for you." In that moment, Huike realized the shocking truth that will change your life forever. The mind you think is controlling you doesn't actually exist the way you think it does. This is the first Zen Buddhism mind control secret. You are not your thoughts. Your thoughts are not you. But wait, it gets even more shocking. What Huike discovered in that moment was that all his suffering, all his mental torment, all his inability to find peace was caused by his belief in something that wasn't even real. He had been fighting an enemy that didn't exist. You see, Huike had been treating his thoughts as if they were solid, permanent things. He had been identifying with them, believing they were him. But when he actually looked for this mind, when he searched for this thing he thought was causing all his problems, he couldn't find it anywhere. Modern neuroscience has now proven what Buddhist monks knew 500 years ago. Scientists have discovered that the part of your brain responsible for that constant mental chatter, the default mode network, is actually the same brain network associated with unhappiness, anxiety, and depression. The more your mind wanders, the more miserable you become. The more you identify with your thoughts, the more you suffer. The Buddhist monks were right all along. But here's what's truly shocking about your own experience. Right now, as you're listening to this, you're probably having thoughts about what I'm saying. Your mind is probably commenting, judging, agreeing, or disagreeing. And you're probably thinking that those thoughts are you. But what if they're not? What if, like Huike discovered, this mind you think is so solid and real is actually just a collection of temporary, changing phenomena that have no permanent existence? What if the voice in your head that never stops talking isn't your true self at all? What if the constant stream of thoughts, worries, and mental chatter that you've been fighting your entire life is actually just an illusion? This realization doesn't mean your thoughts disappear. It means you stop being enslaved by them. You stop believing that every thought that pops into your head is important, true, or worthy of your attention. You begin to see thoughts for what they really are: temporary mental events that come and go like clouds in the sky. But if you're not your thoughts, then who are you? This question led to another shocking discovery that will completely change how you see yourself and your place in the world. Now that you've discovered you're not your thoughts, you might be feeling confused. If I'm not my thoughts, then who am I? This is the question that has haunted humanity since the beginning of time. And the answer will shock you more than anything you've heard so far. Let me tell you another story that will shatter everything you think you know about yourself. There was once a monk named Joshu who lived over 10 years ago. He was famous for his penetrating questions that would destroy people's illusions about reality in a single moment. One day, a young seeker came to him, desperate for answers. The seeker had heard about the teaching that he wasn't his thoughts, but now he was completely lost. The young man bowed deeply and asked, "Master, I understand that I'm not my thoughts, but then who am I really? What is my true nature? What is this self that I keep searching for?" Joshu looked at him with eyes that seemed to see right through him. Then he pointed to a dog that was walking by and asked, "Does that dog have Buddha nature?" The seeker was confused. "What do you mean, Master? Are you saying I'm like a dog? Are you avoiding my question?" Joshu replied with a single word that would become the most famous answer in all of Zen Buddhism: Mu. Mu means no or nothing. But Joshu wasn't really talking about the dog. He was pointing to the most shocking truth about your identity. You see, the seeker was making the same mistake that everyone makes. He was looking for something to be, some identity, some self, some essence that he could point to and say, "This is me. This is who I really am." But Joshu's answer of Mu was revealing something revolutionary. Your true nature is not a thing at all. It's not an object you can find or identify. It's not a self you can describe or define. Think about this in your own life. When someone asks you who you are, What do you say? You might say your name, your job, your role as a parent or spouse. You might describe your personality, your beliefs, your history. But are any of these things really you? Your name is just a label that was given to you. Your job is something you do, not something you are. Your roles change throughout your life. Your personality shifts and evolves. Your beliefs can be altered. Your history is just a collection of memories. So, who are you beneath all of these temporary identities? Who are you when you strip away all the labels, all the roles, all the stories you tell about yourself? Let me tell you another story that will show you exactly what Joshua was pointing to. There was a master named Mazu who had a student named Baizhang. One day, Baizhang was walking with his master when he asked, "Master, what is the most extraordinary thing in the world?" Mazu stopped walking and replied, "I sit alone on this great mountain." Baizhang was puzzled. "I don't understand, Master. What's so extraordinary about sitting alone? Anyone can sit alone." Mazu smiled and said, "When you truly sit alone, you realize that there is no one sitting and no mountain to sit on. The you that you think exists is just an illusion. There is only pure awareness, pure being, with no separate self anywhere to be found. This is what Zen Buddhism calls your original face, the face you had before your parents were born. It's not a face you can see in a mirror. It's not a face that has features or expressions. It's the pure, unchanging awareness that has been with you every moment of your life, but that you've completely overlooked. Right now, as you're listening to these words, there's an awareness that knows you're listening. There's something that's aware of your thoughts, aware of your emotions, aware of your surroundings. This awareness doesn't have a name, doesn't have a story, doesn't have a personality. It's just pure, open, spacious, knowing. This is your true nature. Not the thoughts that come and go, not the emotions that rise and fall, not the stories you tell about yourself, but the awareness that knows all of these things. But here's what's truly shocking. This awareness is not personal. It's not yours or mine. It's not separate from anything. The awareness that's looking out of your eyes right now is the same awareness that's looking out of every pair of eyes. The consciousness that knows your experience is the same consciousness that knows all experience. In Zen Buddhism, they have a practice called shikantaza, just sitting. It sounds incredibly simple, but it's actually the most powerful technique ever discovered for revealing your true nature. You don't try to become enlightened. You don't try to stop your thoughts. You don't try to achieve any special state. You simply sit and be what you already are. You rest as the awareness that's already here, that's already perfect, that's already free. When you do this, something miraculous happens. You realize that you were never actually trapped by your thoughts. You were never actually suffering. You were never actually separate from peace and happiness. All of that was just a story you were telling yourself. The real you, this pure awareness, has never been disturbed by anything. Thoughts come and go in this awareness like clouds in the sky, but the sky is never stained by the clouds. Emotions arise and pass away in this awareness like waves on the ocean, but the ocean is never disturbed by the waves. This is the second Zen Buddhism mind control secret. You are not the changing content of your mind. You are the unchanging awareness that observes it all. But here's where most people get confused. They think that because they're this pure awareness, they should be detached from everything. They think they should stop caring, stop feeling, stop engaging with life. But this is a huge misunderstanding. Being aware of your true nature doesn't make you cold or indifferent. It makes you more alive, more present, more capable of genuine love and compassion. When you're not trapped in the story of a separate self, you're free to respond to life with wisdom and kindness. But there's still one more shocking truth you need to understand. Because even though you are this pure awareness, you still experience suffering. You still get caught up in worry and fear. You still feel trapped by your circumstances. Why is this happening if you're already free? The answer lies in understanding the most dangerous trap that keeps even awakened beings suffering. A trap so subtle, so seductive, that most people never even realize they're caught in it. Now that you know you are pure awareness, you might be wondering, if I'm already free, if I'm already this unchanging consciousness, then why do I still suffer? Why do I still feel trapped, worried, or unhappy? The answer lies in the most dangerous trap in all of human existence. A trap so subtle that even people who understand their true nature can remain caught in it for years. Let me tell you a story that will expose this trap completely. There was once a Zen master named Yunmen who was known for his fierce and uncompromising teaching style. He had a way of destroying people's illusions with shocking directness. One day, a wealthy merchant came to visit him. This merchant was carrying a beautiful jade statue that had been passed down through his family for generations. The merchant approached Yunmen with great reverence. You could see that he was clearly very attached to this statue. He held it carefully, protectively, like his life depended on it. This wasn't just an object to him. This statue represented his family history, his identity, his sense of security in the world. The merchant bowed deeply and said, "Master, I have everything I could ever want in life. I have wealth, success, a beautiful family, but I still feel empty inside. I still suffer. Please teach me the secret to true happiness." Yunmen looked at the jade statue in the merchant's hands and said simply, "Give me that statue." The merchant hesitated. His grip tightened on the jade. "But master, this statue has been in my family for generations. It's priceless. It's irreplaceable. It's part of who I am." "Give it to me," Yunmen repeated, his voice calm but firm. "Think about your own life right now. What is your jade statue? What is that thing you're holding onto so tightly that the thought of losing it fills you with fear? Maybe it's a relationship. Maybe it's your job or your money. Maybe it's your reputation or your self-image. Maybe it's your health or your youth. What would happen if someone asked you to give it up right now?" Reluctantly, with trembling hands, the merchant handed over the statue. He could barely let go of it. You could see the anxiety in his eyes as the precious object left his possession. Without warning, without hesitation, Yunmen threw the statue to the ground. It shattered into 1,000 pieces. The beautiful jade that had existed for centuries was destroyed in an instant. The merchant screamed in anguish, "Master, how could you do this? That statue was everything to me. It was my heritage, my treasure, my pride. You've destroyed something irreplaceable." Can you feel his pain? Can you imagine how you would react if someone destroyed your most precious possession. That sense of loss, that feeling that part of your identity has been ripped away. That's exactly what the merchant was experiencing. Yunmen looked at him with infinite compassion and said, "Your suffering is not caused by the broken statue. Your suffering is caused by your attachment to the statue remaining whole." In that moment, the merchant understood. His pain wasn't really about the jade. His pain was about his need for things to stay the same. His pain was about his attachment to permanence in a world where everything is constantly changing. This is the third Zen Buddhism mind control secret. Attachment is the root of all suffering. But here's what's truly shocking. Attachment isn't just about objects. It's about your thoughts, your emotions, your ideas about who you are and who you should be. It's about your need for life to match your expectations. Let me tell you another story that will show you how deep this trap really goes. There was a monk named Tanzan who was walking along a muddy road with his fellow monk Aikido. The rain had been heavy, and the path was treacherous. As they approached a river crossing, they saw a beautiful young woman in an elegant silk kimono. She was standing at the edge of the water, clearly unable to cross because of the mud and her fine clothing. Now, these were Buddhist monks who had taken vows. They were not supposed to have any physical contact with women. This was one of their most fundamental rules. But Tanzan looked at the woman's predicament and saw only a human being who needed help. Without hesitation, without thinking about the rules or what others might think, Tanzan picked up the woman and carried her across the river. He set her down gently on the other side, and she bowed gratefully before continuing on her way. For the next several hours, Aikido walked in complete silence. You could feel the tension radiating from him. His mind was churning with thoughts. Finally, he could contain himself no longer. "Tanzan," he said, his voice tight with judgment, "we monks are not supposed to touch women, especially beautiful ones. What you did was wrong. You broke your vows. You violated our teachings." Tanzan looked at him with surprise and said, "Aikido, I put that woman down hours ago. Why are you still carrying her? Do you see what happened here?" Tanzan had helped someone and moved on. His mind was clear and present. But Aikido was suffering not because of what happened, but because of his attachment to his ideas about what should have happened. He was carrying the mental burden of that event hours after it was over. He was trapped by his attachment to rules, to concepts of right and wrong, to his need for reality to match his beliefs. This is what we all do. We carry our past experiences, our future worries, our ideas about how things should be. We're constantly trying to make reality conform to our preferences. And this carrying of this attachment is what creates all of our suffering. Think about your own life right now. What are you carrying that you could put down? What happened yesterday that you're still replaying in your mind? What might happen tomorrow that you're already worrying about? What ideas about how your life should be are causing you to suffer about how your life actually is? In Buddhism, we call this dukkha, the suffering that comes from clinging to things that are impermanent. Everything in this world is constantly changing. Your job, your relationships, your body, your thoughts, your emotions, your circumstances, everything is in constant flux. When you attach to these changing things, when you need them to remain the same or to be different than they are, you're setting yourself up for suffering. It's like trying to hold water in your hands. The tighter you grip, the more it slips away. But here's what's crucial to understand. Non-attachment doesn't mean you don't care. It doesn't mean you become cold or indifferent. It doesn't mean you stop loving people or pursuing your goals. Non-attachment means you love without clinging. You care without needing to control. You engage fully with life without demanding that life meet all your expectations. You hold your preferences lightly, like a bird in your open palm. When you practice non-attachment, something magical happens. You don't stop feeling emotions, you feel them more fully because you're not resisting them. You don't stop loving people, you love them more freely because you're not trying to possess them. You don't stop pursuing your dreams, you pursue them with more clarity because you're not desperate for them. You begin to experience what Zen Buddhism calls the middle way, a life of full engagement without desperate attachment. You participate completely in the human experience while remaining free from the suffering that comes from needing things to be different than they are. But there's an even deeper level to this teaching. Because the ultimate attachment, the one that causes more suffering than any other, is your attachment to the very idea of being a separate self who needs things to be different. And understanding this will lead us to the most liberating truth in all of Buddhism. Now that you understand attachment is the root of suffering, you might be wondering, but how can I stop being attached when everything I care about feels so important? How can I let go when letting go feels like losing everything that matters? The answer lies in understanding the most revolutionary truth in all of Buddhism, a truth so powerful that once you truly grasp it, it will completely transform how you experience every moment of your life. Let me tell you a story that will change everything you think you know about loss and change. There was once a Zen master named Ikkyu who was famous for his unconventional wisdom and his deep understanding of impermanence. As he lay dying at the age of 88, his students gathered around his bedside, weeping and filled with grief. They couldn't bear the thought of losing their beloved teacher. One student, tears streaming down his face, said, "Master, we cannot accept that you are leaving us. Your wisdom, your presence, your guidance, we need these things. How can we go on without you? This is too painful to bear." Ikkyu smiled weakly and asked for a brush and paper. With his final breaths, he wrote a poem that would become one of the most famous death poems in Zen history. "Having lived like a river flowing toward the sea, I return to the source. Tomorrow's wind will blow. Tomorrow's wind will blow." Then he looked at his students with eyes full of love and said, "You are suffering because you believe something permanent is being lost. But nothing permanent ever existed. I was never yours to keep. I was always just a temporary formation, like a wave on the ocean. The wave appears, dances for a moment, and returns to the sea. Nothing is lost because nothing separate ever existed." With that, he closed his eyes and passed away peacefully. His students were stunned. In that moment, they realized the shocking truth that will revolutionize your entire approach to life. Everything you think you're going to lose, you never actually possessed in the first place. This is the fourth Zen Buddhism mind control secret. Impermanence is not the enemy. Resistance to impermanence. Think about this in your own life. What are you afraid of losing? Your youth, your health, your relationships, your job, your loved ones, your sense of security. All of these fears are based on the illusion that these things belong to you permanently. But here's the revolutionary truth. You never owned any of these things. They were always just temporary experiences flowing through your life. Your body was always changing from the moment you were born. Your relationships were always evolving. Your circumstances were always in flux. Nothing was ever permanent. Nothing was ever fixed. Nothing was ever truly yours. When you understand this deeply, something miraculous happens. Instead of feeling depressed about impermanence, you feel liberated by it. Instead of being terrified of change, you become free to flow with it. Instead of desperately clinging to things as they are, you become curious about what they might become. Let me share another story that will show you exactly how this works. There was a woman who visited a Zen master because she was devastated about her aging. She was in her 50s and couldn't stop mourning the loss of her youth. She spent hours every day looking in the mirror, touching her wrinkles, feeling bitter about the changes in her body. She said to the master, "I used to be beautiful. I used to be young. Now I'm old and ugly. I've lost everything that made me valuable. How can I accept this? How can I be happy when everything good about me is disappearing?" The master pointed to a tree outside the window. It was autumn, and the leaves were changing from green to brilliant shades of red, orange, and gold. "Tell me," he said, "is that tree less beautiful now than it was in spring?" The woman looked at the tree. "Well, no," she admitted. "It's actually quite stunning. The colors are magnificent. And when winter comes and the leaves fall, will the tree be ugly?" She thought about it. "No, I suppose it will have its own kind of beauty. The bare branches against the sky, the elegant simplicity." The master smiled. "The tree doesn't resist its seasons. It doesn't try to hold on to summer. It doesn't mourn the loss of spring. It simply expresses the beauty that belongs to each stage of its existence. Your life has seasons too. The beauty of youth was real, but it was never meant to last forever. The beauty of maturity is different, but it's equally real. And the beauty of old age will be different again." In that moment, the woman understood. She had been fighting a war against nature itself. She had been trying to make permanent something that was always designed to change. And in fighting this natural process, she had been missing the beauty that was available to her right now. This is what most of us do. We spend so much energy trying to stop the flow of life that we miss the beauty of where we actually are. We're so focused on what we're losing that we can't see what we're gaining. We're so afraid of change that we forget that change is what brought us everything we love in the first place. Think about your own resistance to change. How much energy do you spend trying to keep things the same? How much worry do you carry about what might be different tomorrow? How much of your present moment happiness do you sacrifice to your fear of future loss? But here's the most shocking part. The things you're trying to preserve by resisting change are actually being destroyed by your resistance. When you grip too tightly to a relationship, you suffocate it. When you cling desperately to your youth, you miss the joy of growing older. When you refuse to accept change in your circumstances, you create suffering where none needs to exist. The Buddha taught that everything in existence follows the same fundamental law: arising, dwelling, and ceasing. Everything that comes into being will also pass away. This includes your thoughts, your emotions, your circumstances, your relationships, your body, and even your sense of self. But here's what's revolutionary. When you stop fighting this law and start flowing with it, you discover that impermanence is actually your greatest ally. It means that your suffering is temporary. It means that difficult circumstances will pass. It means that you're always being given fresh opportunities to begin again. Every breath you take is new. Every moment is a clean slate. Every day is a chance to experience life with fresh eyes. The you that existed yesterday is already gone. The you that exists tomorrow hasn't been born yet. There is only this moment, always changing, always new, always offering itself completely to your awareness. When you truly embrace impermanence, you stop wasting energy trying to control the uncontrollable. You stop suffering about things that haven't happened yet. You stop carrying the weight of things that are already over. You become available to the miracle of what's actually here right now. But embracing impermanence is just the beginning. Because once you stop resisting change, you discover something even more profound. The art of consciously letting go of everything that no longer serves you. And this skill will transform not just how you think, but how you live every single day. Now that you understand impermanence is your ally, you might be wondering, how do I actually let go? How do I release my grip on the things that are causing me suffering? How do I stop clinging when clinging feels like the most natural thing in the world? The answer lies in mastering the most liberating skill in all of human existence, a skill that will free you from years of accumulated mental and emotional baggage. Let me tell you a story that will teach you the secret of true letting go. There was once a Zen master who was teaching a group of students about the nature of attachment. To demonstrate his point, he held up his hand in a tight fist and said, "Imagine I'm holding sand in my closed hand. What happens to the sand?" One student answered, "Most of it falls out between your fingers, Master." "Exactly," the master said. "The tighter I grip, the more I lose. Now watch this." He opened his hand completely, palm flat and relaxed. Then he scooped up some actual sand and held his hand steady. The sand remained perfectly in his open palm. When I hold with an open hand, when I offer support without gripping, everything stays naturally. This is the secret of letting go. It's not about pushing away or rejecting. It's about opening your grip and allowing life to rest in your awareness without force. One student raised her hand, "But Master, if I don't hold tightly to the things I love, won't I lose them?" The master smiled. "Tell me, when you hold your breath tightly because you love breathing, what happens?" The student thought for a moment. "I suffocate. I actually prevent the very thing I'm trying to preserve." "Precisely," the master said. "True love requires the freedom to flow. True security comes from knowing you can navigate change, not from preventing change. True peace comes from letting go, not from holding on." This is the fifth Zen Buddhism mind control secret. Letting go is not about losing something. It's about freeing yourself from the illusion that you ever possessed it. But letting go is an art that must be practiced. It's not something you can just decide to do once and be done with. It's a moment-by-moment choice to release your grip on how you think life should be and open to how life actually is. Let me share another story that will show you exactly how this practice works. There was a businessman who came to visit a famous Zen master. This man was incredibly successful but miserable. He carried the weight of every business deal, every relationship conflict, every past mistake, and every future worry. His mind was like a computer with too many programs running, slow, overheated, and constantly crashing. He said to the master, "I've tried everything. Therapy, meditation, vacations, success, money. Nothing gives me lasting peace. I feel like I'm drowning in my own thoughts and worries. How can I find freedom?" The master handed him a large, heavy backpack filled with rocks. "Carry this with you everywhere you go for the next week," the master said. "Don't put it down, not even when you sleep. Then come back and tell me how you feel." The businessman was confused, but agreed. After just 3 days, he came back exhausted and in pain. "Master, this backpack is destroying my life. My back aches, I can't sleep, I can't focus on work. Please, let me put it down." The master looked at him compassionately. "Tell me, who is forcing you to carry that backpack?" The businessman was stunned. "Well, you told me to. But who is actually making you carry it right now, in this moment?" The businessman realized the truth. "I am. I'm choosing to carry it." "Put it down," the master said simply. The businessman set the backpack on the ground and immediately felt a rush of relief. The weight was gone. The pain began to ease. "Now," the master said, "those worries you carry, those regrets, those fears about the future, who is making you carry those?" In that moment, the businessman understood. He had been voluntarily carrying mental and emotional weight that he could choose to put down at any moment. The only thing keeping him trapped was his belief that he had to carry these burdens. This is the truth about letting go that will revolutionize your life. You are already free. You are already carrying the key to your own prison. The only thing keeping you trapped is your habit of picking up burdens that you could simply leave on the ground. Think about your own mental backpack right now. What are you carrying that you could put down? What worry from yesterday are you still lugging around? What fear about tomorrow are you hauling into this present moment? What resentment, what regret, what anxiety are you voluntarily carrying? Here's the practical art of letting go. When you notice you're carrying something heavy in your mind, simply ask yourself, is this thought or feeling serving me right now? Is carrying this burden making my life better or worse? Am I required to keep holding this, or can I choose to set it down? Most of the time, you'll discover that you're carrying things out of habit, not necessity. You're holding on to thoughts and emotions because you've forgotten that you have the power to release them. But here's what's crucial to understand. Letting go doesn't mean becoming indifferent. It doesn't mean you stop caring about people or pursuing your goals. It doesn't mean you become passive or irresponsible. Letting go means you care without being consumed. You pursue your goals without being desperate. You love without being possessive. You engage fully with life while maintaining your inner freedom. When you master this art, something beautiful happens. You discover that you actually become more effective, not less. When you're not weighed down by mental and emotional baggage, you have more energy for what truly matters. When you're not desperate for specific outcomes, you can see opportunities more clearly. When you're not clinging to how things should be, you can respond more wisely to how things actually are. The greatest Zen masters weren't detached from life. They were completely available to it. They could feel joy without needing it to last forever. They could experience sadness without being destroyed by it. They could love deeply without losing themselves in the relationship. They had learned to dance with life instead of wrestling with it. This is what becomes possible when you master the art of letting go. You stop fighting reality and start flowing with it. You stop trying to control everything and start trusting the intelligence of life itself. You stop living in the past and future and start discovering the incredible richness that's available right here, right now. But there's still one more secret you need to understand. Because even when you learn to let go of your thoughts and emotions, there's one place where true freedom is found, a place that exists beyond all thoughts, beyond all emotions, beyond all problems and solutions. And discovering this place will reveal the ultimate secret of Zen Buddhism. You've learned to let go, but you might still be wondering, where do I find lasting peace when everything in my life is constantly changing? Where is the one place I can always return to for refuge? The answer lies in discovering the most profound secret in all of Zen Buddhism, a secret hiding in plain sight, available to you every moment of every day, yet completely overlooked by most people. Let me tell you a story that will reveal this secret completely. There was once a famous Zen master named Linji, who was known for his direct and powerful teachings. One day, a seeker came to him in great distress. This man had studied with many teachers, read countless books, practiced meditation for years, but still felt lost and disconnected from any real peace. The seeker bowed deeply and said, "Master, I have searched everywhere for enlightenment. I have tried every practice, visited every holy place, followed every teaching, but I still feel like I'm missing something fundamental. Where can I find the Buddha? Where can I find true awakening?" Linji looked at him with piercing eyes and said, "You want to know where to find the Buddha? Right now, the one who is asking this question, the one who is hearing my words, the one who is breathing, seeing, thinking, that is the Buddha. There is no Buddha to find outside of this very moment. There is no awakening to achieve beyond what is already here." The seeker was confused. "But Master, I don't feel enlightened. I still have problems. I still suffer. I still feel lost. How can you say I am already the Buddha?" Linji smiled. "Your problems exist only in your thinking about past and future. Your suffering exists only in your resistance to what is happening now. But in this moment, right now, before you think about it, before you judge it, before you compare it to how you think it should be, in this pure moment of just being, where is the problem?" The seeker paused and looked around. He felt his breath, noticed the sounds in the room, observed the sensations in his body. For just a moment, his mind stopped its constant chatter. And in that silence, he discovered something shocking. Right now, in this very moment, nothing was actually wrong. This is the sixth Zen Buddhism mind control secret. The present moment is the only place where peace, happiness, and freedom actually exist. But here's what's truly mind-blowing. You have never actually experienced anything outside of the present moment. Every memory you have was experienced in a present moment. Every future event you'll ever encounter will be experienced in a present moment. This moment right now is literally the only reality you have ever known or ever will know. Yet most people spend their entire lives anywhere but here. They live in the past through memory and regret. They live in the future through planning and worry. They miss the only moment where life is actually happening. Think about your own experience right now. as you're listening to these words, where is your mind? Are you fully here, or are you thinking about what you heard earlier? Are you planning what you'll do after this? Are you judging what I'm saying, comparing it to other things you've learned? This is what we all do. We use the present moment as a launching pad into mental time travel. We treat this moment as a problem to be solved rather than a reality to be experienced. We rush through our actual life while living in the stories our mind tells about life. Let me share another story that will show you the extraordinary power of present moment awareness. There was a Zen master who was famous for his tea ceremonies. People would travel from great distances just to watch him prepare and serve tea. But there was nothing spectacular about what he did. He simply heated water, measured tea leaves, and poured tea into cups. Yet everyone who witnessed his tea ceremony was profoundly moved. One day, a visitor asked him, "Master, what is so special about your tea ceremony? You do the same things that anyone does when making tea. Why does it feel so different when you do it?" The master replied, "When I heat the water, I am only heating the water. When I measure the tea, I am only measuring the tea. When I pour the tea, I am only pouring the tea. I am completely present with each action, each moment." Most people make tea while thinking about 1,000 other things. They are everywhere except where they actually are. The visitor was puzzled. But what's so profound about just paying attention? The master smiled. "Try it and see. For the next hour, whatever you do, be completely present with that action. If you walk, just walk. If you eat, just eat. If you listen, just listen." See what happens when you stop dividing your attention between what you're doing and what you're thinking about. The visitor agreed to try this simple experiment. For the next hour, he practiced being completely present with whatever he was doing. When he walked, he felt his feet touching the ground. When he ate, he tasted every bite. When he listened to birds singing, he heard only the sound. After an hour, he returned to the master, visibly moved. "Master, I don't understand what happened." Everything was the same, but everything was completely different. The walking felt like a miracle. The food tasted incredible. The bird songs were like music I'd never heard before. "What did you do to me?" The master laughed gently. "I didn't do anything to you. You simply stopped doing things to yourself. You stopped overlaying your direct experience with mental commentary. You discovered what your life actually feels like when you're fully present for it." This is the profound secret that most people never discover. Your ordinary life, experienced with complete presence, is extraordinary. The problem isn't that your life is boring or insufficient. The problem is that you're not actually present for your life. Right now, as you're listening to this, you have the opportunity to experience this secret directly. Instead of just thinking about what I'm saying, try being completely present with the actual experience of listening. Feel the air moving in and out of your lungs. Notice any sounds in your environment. Sense the weight of your body. Just for a moment, stop thinking about the meaning of these words and simply be present with the raw experience of hearing them. When you do this, you might notice something remarkable. In this moment of pure presence, your problems don't exist. Your worries about the future are nowhere to be found. Your regrets about the past have completely disappeared. There is only this, the simple, immediate reality of being alive right now. This is why the great Zen masters seemed so peaceful and free. They had discovered that peace doesn't exist in the future when your problems are solved. Peace exists right now, in this moment, before you think about your problems. Freedom doesn't exist in some special state of consciousness. Freedom exists in this ordinary moment when you stop resisting what's actually happening. But here's what's truly revolutionary. When you learn to live from this place of present moment awareness, you don't become passive or disconnected from life. You become more alive, more responsive, more effective. You can still plan for the future, but you do it from a place of clarity rather than anxiety. You can still learn from the past, but you do it without being trapped by regret. The present moment becomes your home base, your refuge, your source of strength. No matter what's happening in your life, no matter how challenging your circumstances, you always have access to this moment of pure being. And from this place, you can respond to anything with wisdom and grace. But there's still one more profound truth waiting to be discovered, because when you truly master present moment awareness, you realize that all suffering, every form of human misery, can be traced back to one fundamental mistake. And understanding this mistake will finally free you from the prison of your own mind. You've discovered the power of the present moment, but you might still be wondering, if peace is always available right now, why do I still suffer? Why do I still get caught in worry, anger, and sadness? Why does it feel so difficult to stay present when life gets challenging? The answer lies in understanding the most profound truth in all of Buddhism, a truth so simple yet so revolutionary that once you grasp it, it will end your suffering forever. Let me tell you a story that will reveal the ultimate secret of human liberation. There was once a monk who had been practicing meditation for 20 years. He had studied every teaching, followed every rule, spent countless hours in silent contemplation. Yet he still found himself getting angry, worried, and frustrated. He was deeply discouraged and felt like a failure. One day, he approached his master and said, "Teacher, I have practiced for 2 decades, but I still suffer. I still get upset when things don't go my way. I still worry about the future and regret the past. What am I doing wrong? When will my suffering finally end?" The master looked at him with deep compassion and asked, "Tell me, when you are sitting in meditation and a thought of anger arises, what do you do?" The monk replied, "I try to let it go. I try to return to my breath. I try to find peace." "And when you are trying to let go of the anger, are you suffering?" The monk thought about it. "Yes, I suppose I am. I'm struggling with the anger. I'm fighting it, resisting it." The master nodded. "And when a thought of worry arises about tomorrow, I try to stop worrying," the monk said. "I remind myself that worry doesn't help. I try to stay present." "And when you are trying to stop worrying, are you at peace?" "No," the monk admitted. "I'm anxious about being anxious. I'm worried about my worry." The master smiled. "Do you see what's happening? You are suffering about your suffering. You are fighting the very experiences that are already here. You are creating a second layer of pain on top of whatever you're already feeling." In that moment, the monk realized something that changed his life forever. His suffering wasn't caused by his anger, worry, or sadness. His suffering was caused by his resistance to these natural human experiences. This is the seventh Zen Buddhism mind control secret. Suffering is not caused by painful experiences. Suffering is caused by your resistance to painful experiences. Let me explain this in a way that will revolutionize how you approach every difficult moment in your life. When something painful happens, you lose a job, a relationship ends, someone you love dies, there is a natural, unavoidable pain that comes with these experiences. This pain is part of being human. It's natural, it's temporary, and it serves a purpose. The Buddha called this pain the first arrow. But then something else happens. Your mind starts to resist the pain. It says, "This shouldn't be happening. This is unfair. I can't handle this. Why me? This is terrible. I need this to stop right now." This resistance, this mental struggle with what's already happening, is what the Buddha called the second arrow. Here's the shocking truth. The first arrow is inevitable. Life will bring pain. But the second arrow, the suffering, is completely optional. You create it with your resistance. You multiply your pain by fighting what's already here. Think about your own experience right now. When you're angry, what causes more distress? The anger itself, or your judgment that you shouldn't be angry? When you're sad, what's more painful to the sadness, or your belief that something is wrong with you for feeling sad? When you're anxious, what's worse? The anxiety, or your anxiety about being anxious? Most of your suffering comes from the second arrow. You suffer because you think you shouldn't be suffering. You feel bad about feeling bad. You create a war between what you're experiencing and what you think you should be experiencing. But here's what happens when you stop shooting the second arrow. The first arrow becomes completely manageable. Pain without resistance is just sensation. Sadness without judgment is just energy moving through you. Anger without the story that you shouldn't be angry is just a temporary experience that comes and goes naturally. Let me share another story that will show you exactly how this works. There was a woman who had been diagnosed with a serious illness. She was terrified, angry, and depressed. She felt like her life was falling apart. She went to see a Zen teacher, hoping for some comfort or advice. She said to the teacher, "I'm dying, and I'm so scared. I'm angry that this is happening to me. I feel like I'm failing because I can't find peace with this situation. How can I stop being afraid? How can I stop being angry? How can I find acceptance?" The teacher listened quietly, then said, "You're asking the wrong questions. Instead of asking how to stop being afraid, ask, can I be afraid without judging my fear? Instead of asking how to stop being angry, ask, can I be angry without making my anger wrong? Instead of asking how to find acceptance, ask, can I accept that I'm not accepting this right now?" The woman was confused. "I don't understand. Aren't these negative emotions something I should try to overcome?" The teacher shook his head. "Your fear is appropriate. Your anger is understandable. Your lack of acceptance is completely human. The problem isn't that you're having these experiences. The problem is that you're having these experiences and then having another set of experiences about having them. You're afraid, and then afraid of being afraid. You're angry, and then angry about being angry. You're not accepting, and then not accepting your lack of acceptance. In that moment, The woman understood. She realized she had been fighting a war on two fronts, to dealing with her illness and fighting herself for how she was dealing with her illness. She saw that she could continue experiencing fear, anger, and resistance without adding the extra layer of self-judgment and struggle. When she stopped fighting her own natural responses, something beautiful happened. Her fear was still there, but it wasn't overwhelming. Her anger was still present, but it wasn't consuming her. Her resistance was still active, but it wasn't creating additional suffering. She had discovered the ultimate secret of ending suffering. You don't end suffering by eliminating all painful experiences. You end suffering by eliminating your resistance to painful experiences. This is what the Buddha meant when he said that the cause of suffering is attachment. He wasn't talking about attachment to people or things. He was talking about attachment to having experiences be different than they are. He was talking about the mental habit of resisting reality. When you truly understand this, everything changes. You stop trying to control your inner experience and start accepting whatever arises. You stop fighting your thoughts and emotions and start allowing them to move through you naturally. You stop creating unnecessary suffering and start responding to life from a place of wisdom and peace. But here's what's most important. This doesn't mean you become passive or indifferent. It means you respond to life's challenges from a place of clarity rather than reactivity. You can feel sad without being overwhelmed by sadness. You can experience anger without being controlled by anger. You can face difficulties without adding the extra burden of fighting yourself. This is true freedom, not the absence of challenging experiences, but the absence of resistance to whatever experiences arise. And when you master this, you discover that you have everything you need to live with grace, wisdom, and genuine peace, no matter what life brings. But knowing these truths intellectually is not enough. You need practical ways to integrate this wisdom into your daily life. You need specific practices that will help you embody these teachings when life gets difficult. And that's exactly what we'll explore next. You now understand the deepest truths of Zen Buddhism. But you might be wondering, how do I actually live these teachings? How do I turn this wisdom into a way of being that transforms my everyday experience? The answer lies in developing simple daily practices that gradually rewire your mind and create lasting change. These aren't complicated rituals or time-consuming techniques. They're subtle shifts in awareness that you can practice anywhere, anytime. Let me tell you a story that will show you the power of consistent daily practice. There was once a young monk who was frustrated with his slow progress. He had been studying Zen for 3 years, but still felt like his mind was as chaotic as ever. He went to his master and complained, "Teacher, I've been practicing for years, but I don't feel any different. When will I see real transformation? When will I become enlightened?" The master led him to a large stone in the temple courtyard. He pointed to a small groove that had been worn into the stone's surface. "Do you see this groove?" "Yes, master," the monk replied. "For hundreds of years, monks have walked past this stone. Each day, each monk's robe would brush against this hard rock. Tell me, did any single brush of cloth create this groove?" The monk understood immediately. "No, master. It was the accumulation of countless gentle touches over time." The master smiled. "Your practice is like that cloth. Each moment of awareness, each breath taken consciously, each time you choose presence over distraction, These are gentle touches that gradually transform the hardest stone of conditioning. You cannot see the change happening, but it is happening with every moment of practice. This is the 8th Zen Buddhism mind control secret. Transformation happens through consistent daily practice, not through dramatic breakthroughs. The most powerful practices are often the simplest ones. Let me share the daily practices that can revolutionize your life if you commit to them consistently. First, there's the practice of conscious breathing. This isn't about special breathing techniques or sitting in meditation for hours. It's about remembering to breathe consciously throughout your day. When you're walking, take 3 conscious breaths. When you're waiting in line, breathe with awareness. When you feel stressed, return to your breath. Your breath is always happening in the present moment. Every time you bring conscious attention to breathing, you're practicing presence. You're training your mind to come back to now, instead of wandering into past and future. You're creating moments of peace in the middle of a busy day. Try this right now. Take a slow, conscious breath. Feel the air entering your nostrils. Notice your chest and belly expanding. Feel the pause before exhaling. Notice the gentle release as you breathe out. For these few seconds, you were completely present. This is the foundation of all Zen practice. The second practice is mindful daily activities. This is where real transformation happens, not in special meditation times, but in how you approach ordinary moments. Let me tell you about a monastery where they practiced this beautifully. There was a Zen monastery where the monks were famous for their peacefulness and joy. Visitors would come expecting to find them engaged in exotic spiritual practices. Instead, they found monks washing dishes with complete attention, sweeping floors with total presence, and eating meals in perfect silence. One visitor asked the head monk, "Where is your special meditation practice? Where are your advanced spiritual techniques?" The monk smiled. "When we wash dishes, we wash dishes. When we sweep, we sweep. When we eat, we eat. Every activity is our meditation. Every moment is our practice." "But that seems so ordinary," the visitor protested. "How can washing dishes be spiritual practice?" The monk handed him a bowl and some soapy water. "Try washing this bowl with your complete attention. Feel the water temperature, notice the texture of the soap, be present with every movement of your hands. Don't think about what you'll do next or what you did yesterday. Just wash." The visitor began washing the bowl. At first, his mind wandered constantly. But gradually, he found himself becoming absorbed in the simple activity. The warm water felt pleasant. The circular motions became soothing. For several minutes, his usually racing mind became calm and focused. When he finished, he looked up with surprise. "I feel so peaceful. How did such a simple activity create that?" The monk explained, "You experience what happens when you stop dividing your life into spiritual time and ordinary time. When you bring complete presence to any activity, that activity becomes a gateway to peace. The dishwashing didn't create the peace. Your attention did. This is the secret of transforming your entire life into spiritual practice. When you brush your teeth with complete attention. When you walk to your car, feel your feet touching the ground. When you listen to someone speaking, listen without planning what you'll say next. When you eat, taste your food instead of scrolling through your phone. Every ordinary moment becomes an opportunity to practice presence. Every daily activity becomes a chance to train your attention. Your whole life becomes your meditation hall. The third practice is the art of pausing. Throughout your day, create tiny moments of conscious stillness. Before you answer the phone, pause and take a breath. Before you respond to an email, pause and feel your feet on the ground. Before you speak in a conversation, pause and notice your intention. These micro pauses might seem insignificant, but they're incredibly powerful. Each pause is a moment where you step out of unconscious reactivity and into conscious choice. Each pause is a chance to remember who you really are beneath all the mental noise. Each pause creates space between stimulus and response, allowing wisdom to arise. The fourth practice is loving observation of your mind. Instead of fighting your thoughts and emotions, practice observing them with curiosity and kindness. When anger arises, notice, "Oh, anger is here." When worry appears, observe, "Worry has arrived." When joy bubbles up, acknowledge, "Joy is present." You're not trying to change these experiences. You're simply practicing awareness of them. You're learning to be the space in which thoughts and emotions arise and pass away, rather than being consumed by them. This practice gradually creates a profound shift. Instead of being your thoughts and emotions, you become the aware space that contains them. Instead of being controlled by your mental activity, you become the witness of it. This is how you reclaim your power from the tyranny of the thinking mind. The fifth practice is gratitude for ordinary moments. Not gratitude as a technique to feel better, but gratitude as a way of recognizing the miraculous nature of existence. The fact that you can see, hear, breathe, think, feel. These are extraordinary miracles that we take for granted. When you pause to appreciate the simple gift of being alive, something shifts in your consciousness. You begin to see that happiness isn't something you need to achieve. It's something that's already here when you're present enough to notice it. Remember, these practices aren't about becoming someone different. They're about remembering who you already are. They're about returning to the natural peace and awareness that's always been your true nature. They're about living from the freedom that you've discovered through these teachings. Start with just one practice. Choose the one that resonates most with you and commit to it for a week. Don't try to be perfect. Just practice, bringing gentle awareness to whatever you choose. Like the groove worn into the stone, transformation will happen naturally through consistency, but there's still one more level to explore. Because as you develop these practices, you'll discover that there are even deeper dimensions of Zen wisdom available to those who are ready. Advanced teachings that can accelerate your awakening and deepen your understanding of the mind's true nature. You've mastered the basics and developed daily practices, but now you're ready for the most advanced teachings in Zen Buddhism, techniques that go beyond ordinary mindfulness and directly point to the deepest levels of consciousness. These practices are for those who want to completely transcend the limitations of the thinking mind and discover the ultimate nature of reality itself. Let me tell you a story that will introduce you to the most powerful mind control technique ever developed. There was once a brilliant scholar who had studied every Buddhist text, memorized countless teachings, and could recite sutras for hours. He was considered one of the most knowledgeable Buddhist philosophers of his time, yet despite all his knowledge, he felt something was missing. He knew about enlightenment intellectually, but he hadn't experienced it directly. He decided to visit the famous Zen master Joshu, hoping to finally achieve the breakthrough he'd been seeking. When he arrived at the monastery, he was eager to demonstrate his vast learning. "Master," he began, "I have studied the Lotus Sutra, the Heart Sutra, the teachings on emptiness, the nature of Buddha consciousness. I understand intellectually that all phenomena are empty of inherent existence. I know that the self is an illusion, but I want to experience this truth directly. Please give me the deepest teaching." Joshu looked at him quietly for a long moment. Then he asked a simple question. "What is the sound of one hand clapping?" The scholar was taken aback. "That's it. That's your deepest teaching." "Master, I was expecting something profound. This seems like a riddle for children." Joshu smiled. "This question will take you beyond all the knowledge you've accumulated. It will show you the difference between understanding and realization. Go and find the answer, not with your thinking mind, but with your whole being." Frustrated but committed, the scholar began working with this koan. A koan is not a riddle to be solved intellectually. It's a spiritual tool designed to exhaust the thinking mind and create an opening for direct insight. For months, the scholar pondered this question. He tried every logical approach. Perhaps the sound is silence. Perhaps it's the wind. Perhaps it represents the unity beyond duality. But every answer he brought to Joshu was rejected. This is the 9th Zen Buddhism mind control secret. True understanding comes not from thinking about reality, but from directly experiencing it beyond the realm of thought. The beauty of koan practice is that it forces you to go beyond the limitations of conceptual thinking. Your analytical mind simply cannot solve these questions. The harder you try to think your way to the answer, the more frustrated you become. Eventually, you have to give up trying to understand and simply be present with the question itself. Let me give you a direct experience of how this works. Right now, as you're listening to this, I want you to ask yourself, who is listening? Don't think about the answer. Don't analyze it. Simply be present with the question, who is listening? Notice what happens when you genuinely inquire without trying to formulate a response. There's a sense of looking, of searching, but you can't find a solid entity that you can point to as the listener. There are sounds being heard, but where is the one who hears? There is awareness of listening, but who or what is aware? This type of direct inquiry bypasses the thinking mind and points directly to your true nature. It's not about finding the right answer. It's about discovering the one who is asking the question. After many months of struggle, something shifted for the scholar. One day, while sitting quietly with his koan, his thinking mind simply stopped. In that moment of complete mental stillness, he suddenly understood. The sound of one hand clapping wasn't a sound you could hear with your ears. It was the sound of pure awareness itself, the fundamental consciousness that exists before any thoughts, before any experiences, before any sense of self or other. When he returned to Joshu, he didn't offer any words. He simply sat in silence, embodying the understanding he had gained. Joshu looked at him and nodded. Now you know the difference between knowing about the moon and pointing directly at it. This is the power of advanced Zen practice. It takes you beyond all concepts, all beliefs, all mental understanding, and shows you reality directly. It's like the difference between reading about water and actually drinking it. Another advanced practice is called just sitting, or shikantaza. This isn't meditation as most people understand it. You're not trying to achieve anything, not trying to stop thoughts, not trying to reach any special state. You're simply sitting and being exactly what you already are. Let me tell you about a master who perfected this practice. There was a Zen teacher named Dogen who spent years learning various meditation techniques. He tried concentration practices, visualization methods, breathing exercises. While these were beneficial, he always felt like he was trying to become something other than what he already was. Then he discovered the practice of just sitting. Instead of using meditation to achieve a goal, he learned to simply rest in his natural state. He would sit without agenda, without trying to improve himself, without seeking any particular experience. One day, a student asked him, "Master, what's the point of just sitting if we're not trying to achieve anything? Shouldn't spiritual practice have a purpose?" Dogen replied, "You are asking the wrong question. You assume that you need to become something other than what you are. But what if you're already perfect exactly as you are? What if the peace you're seeking is already here? What if the freedom you want is already your natural state? Just sitting is the practice of resting in your original nature. It's not about doing something to yourself. It's about undoing all the things you think you need to do. It's about being so completely present that you discover you were never actually separate from peace, from awareness, from your true self. When you practice just sitting, you're not trying to control your mind. You're not fighting thoughts or seeking special experiences. You're simply being present with whatever arises, exactly as it is. Thoughts come and go like clouds in the sky. Emotions rise and fall like waves on the ocean. And you remain as the unchanging awareness in which all of this happens. This is perhaps the most advanced practice because it requires complete surrender of the ego's need to improve, achieve, or become something. It's the practice of recognizing that you are already what you've been seeking. There's also the practice of direct pointing to mind nature. This involves asking fundamental questions that reveal the empty, aware nature of consciousness itself. Questions like, what is mind? Where do thoughts come from? What remains when all thoughts disappear? Who is the one who is aware of being aware? These aren't philosophical questions to be answered intellectually. They're pointing out instructions that direct your attention to the most fundamental aspect of your being. When you genuinely investigate these questions, you discover that the mind you thought was solid and real is actually empty, spacious, and luminous. Right now, try this advanced inquiry. Look directly at your mind, not at the thoughts in your mind, but at mind itself. What color is it? What shape does it have? Where does it begin and end? The more you look, the more you realize that mind is not a thing at all. It's pure, open awareness, completely empty, yet vibrantly present. This recognition is the ultimate mind control. When you realize that mind is empty awareness, you're no longer controlled by the contents of mind. Thoughts, emotions, and experiences arise and dissolve in this awareness like writing on water. They appear, but they leave no trace. They have no power to disturb the fundamental peace of your true nature. But mastering these advanced practices is just the beginning. The real challenge is integrating this profound understanding into every aspect of your daily life. How do you live from this recognition? How do you embody these insights in your relationships, your work, your everyday interactions with the world? This integration is where true transformation takes place. You've discovered the deepest secrets of Zen Buddhism, but now comes the most important part: living these insights in your daily life. True mastery isn't about having peak experiences in meditation. It's about embodying this wisdom in your relationships, your work, and every ordinary moment. Let me tell you a story about what real integration looks like. There was once a Zen master named Layman Pang who achieved deep enlightenment but chose not to become a monk. Instead, he lived as an ordinary householder with his wife and daughter. He made his living selling bamboo baskets in the marketplace. One day, a visiting monk asked him, "Master Pang, how do you maintain your spiritual realization while living such an ordinary life? How do you practice Zen while dealing with money, family responsibilities, and worldly concerns?" Pang smiled and recited a famous verse. "My daily activities are not unusual. I'm just naturally in harmony with them. Grasping nothing, discarding nothing. In every place there's no hindrance, no conflict. Who assigns the colors red and purple? The hills and mountains' original appearance has no dust." The monk was puzzled. "I don't understand. What does this mean practically?" Pang explained, "When I sell baskets, I'm completely present with selling baskets. When I talk with my wife, I'm fully there for our conversation. When I worry about money, I allow the worry to be there without fighting it. When I feel joy with my daughter, I experience the joy completely. I don't divide my life into spiritual and non-spiritual activities. Every moment is an opportunity to express my true nature." This is what integration looks like: bringing the awareness you've cultivated into every aspect of your human experience. You don't need to retreat from the world to live these teachings. You bring these teachings into the world. When you're in a difficult conversation, you remember that you are the space in which the difficulty arises. When you're stressed at work, you use that stress as a reminder to return to present moment awareness. When you're stuck in traffic, you practice patience and acceptance instead of resistance. When someone treats you badly, you respond from wisdom rather than reactivity. Your relationships become opportunities to practice unconditional love. Instead of needing others to behave a certain way for you to be happy, you love them as they are while maintaining healthy boundaries. You listen without constantly planning what you'll say next. You give without keeping score. You forgive not because others deserve it, but because forgiveness frees you. Your work becomes a form of meditation. Whether you're answering emails, attending meetings, or doing physical labor, you bring complete presence to each task. You work with excellence not because you're desperate for success, but because excellence is a natural expression of mindful attention. You handle success and failure with equal equanimity because your worth isn't determined by external outcomes. Even your problems become teachers. When anxiety arises, you recognize it as a call to return to the present moment. When anger appears, you see it as energy that can be transformed through awareness. When sadness visits, you welcome it as a natural human emotion that will pass if you don't resist it. This integration doesn't happen overnight. It's a lifelong process of gradually embodying these insights more and more deeply. Some days, you'll remember your true nature easily. Other days, you'll get completely caught up in drama and reactivity. Both are part of the path. What matters is your willingness to keep returning to awareness, keep choosing presence, keep responding from wisdom rather than unconscious habit. The beautiful thing about this path is that it gets easier the more you practice. At first, remembering to be present requires effort. Eventually, presence becomes your natural state. At first, choosing peace over reactivity feels difficult. Eventually, peace becomes your automatic response. At first, living from love rather than fear requires conscious choice. Eventually, love becomes who you are. You begin to live with what Zen masters call effortless effort, responding to life with wisdom and compassion while remaining completely natural and spontaneous. You're no longer trying to be spiritual or enlightened. You're simply being authentic to your deepest nature. This is the ultimate transformation, not becoming someone different, but becoming fully who you already are. Not achieving some special state, but recognizing the perfection of your ordinary awareness. Not escaping your humanity, but embracing it with complete acceptance and love. Your life becomes a living expression of these timeless truths. Every breath becomes a celebration of presence. Every challenge becomes an opportunity for growth. Every interaction becomes a chance to express kindness. Every moment becomes a gateway to the sacred. You've journeyed through the deepest secrets of Zen Buddhism and discovered truths that can transform your entire existence. You've learned that you are not your thoughts, that attachment is the root of suffering, and that peace is always available in this present moment. You've discovered practices that can free you from the prison of your own mind. But knowledge without action is just entertainment. The real question is, what will you do with these insights? Will you let them remain as interesting ideas, or will you use them to create genuine transformation in your life? Your new life begins the moment you choose to live these teachings. Start today. Start now. Choose one practice and commit to it. Begin to see your thoughts as temporary visitors rather than permanent residents. Practice presence in ordinary moments. Respond to challenges with wisdom rather than reactivity. Remember, every master was once a beginner. Every enlightened being was once confused and seeking. The path is simple, but not always easy. Be patient with yourself. Be consistent with your practice. Trust in the process. If this video has touched something deep within you, share it with others who might benefit. Subscribe to Echoes of Dharma for more life-changing wisdom. And remember, you already have everything you need to be free. Your true nature is peace, love, and limitless awareness. These teachings simply remind you of what you've always been. The journey of awakening continues. Welcome to your new life.